Hi, and welcome to this episode of the 01581 Let's Talk. Today, another conversation with our town manager and special guest to talk about the Quilts of Valor program. We'll see you in a minute. Hi, and welcome back. I'm joined by Christy Williams, our town manager.
Morning.
Good morning. What's going on? The town manager report.
Here we
love
go.
this. Here we go.
So a couple of things we wanted to mention today with Memorial Day coming up next week. We wanted to mention the Memorial Day Parade, which is a great event that we have every year. We took a couple years off during COVID, but we're back, and we have the event on Monday, May 29th.
Mm-hmm.
There will be ceremonies, as we usually do, at the cemeteries beginning at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
And then the ceremony, speeches and things like that at the Forbes building at 11.
Okay.
So,
Okay. So for folks that want to go to the various cemeteries, and we have several, so there's Pine Grove, there's St. Luke's, and oh goodness, the one right in center of town, which I'm blanking on. I apologize. Which is one of our oldest.
Midland.
Midland.
Cemetery.
Thank you. So there are typically wreath-laying events there, and some volleys. In particular, the one at Pine Grove seems to attract a lot of folks because it's easy to sort of drive in
Right.
and get to. I know veterans, typically there's a bus, is that correct?
Yep. So any veterans who want to ride on the float can meet the truck at Baxter Street across from the entrance to Pine Grove Cemetery before 10 a.m.
Okay,
So,
excellent,
yep.
excellent. Well, and the public, obviously, you're welcome to attend all of this. Of particular note is at 11 a.m. Right downtown in front of the Forbes building. So you'll see the tent there and the chairs, and it's a brief ceremony, but certainly one that's important to recognize on Memorial Day. So thank you for bringing that up.
Sure,
What else is going on?
absolutely. We also wanted to make note of all of the board and committee appointments that are available beginning July 1st. Under our new committee handbook, the reappointments are not guaranteed. So all of these are fully open and available for folks who are interested in volunteering, and there are several. So we've got about 65 positions that the board appoints, and then 14 positions that I appoint. So we've got everything from the Affordable Housing Trust, Cultural Council, Spirit Committee, Sustainable Westboro. I could go on and on, but
Right.
these are all listed on our website under news, and then also if you click on the boards and committees link, there's a full listing that people
Right,
folks can
all
take a look at.
vacancies, I think
Yep.
it would have you.
Yep.
So very interesting to say that. I actually wanted to mention that we have tonight at our select board meeting, which will be May 23rd. That's when we're taping this today. We'll be talking about the Community Preservation Act Committee, which is a new committee that the town has created by vote, and et cetera, et cetera. And so that's another one that's, I parallel that in some ways to our Affordable Housing Trust, which has kind of some major responsibilities in terms of creating its plan, annual presentations, some budgetary fiscal responsibilities. So for folks interested in Community Preservation Act, which or community preservation focusing on open space and recreation, historic preservation, and affordable housing, this could be the committee for you. So Christy, if someone is not quite ready, like, I don't know if I'm ready to join a board or committee, although I'll tell you, you can do it. If you have a heart and a passion, you can do it. How might they get involved?
Sure. So we are doing our second Citizen Leadership Academy, which will begin in the fall. We're actually going to make a presentation about kind of the syllabus and the structure at the select board meeting on June 13th. We've only done it once before. You attended.
I did.
Yeah.
For better or for worse, this came out of it.
Back in 2016. So we're really excited about it. The department heads will each put on a different class. And so we're hoping that there'll be lots of engagement, some hands-on activities, some really fun stuff. And it's a good way to learn what all the departments do and where you might become involved.
Yeah,
So.
it was really, for me, it was eye-opening and really gave me sort of that additional comfort level. At the time I ran for Library Board of Trustees, and it was like, wow, like I can actually be part of kind of what's happening here. So hopefully folks will stay tuned. June 13th select board meeting, you'll present that and more to come on that.
Yeah,
Great,
great.
excellent. All right, thank you,
Thank you.
Christy, thanks. And we'll be back in just a few minutes with our next guest. Thanks. Hi, and welcome back. I am so excited to be joined today by two amazing guests to talk about the Quilt of Valor program. So joining me today, Teresa Pearl, a state coordinator for Massachusetts for the Quilt of Valor program, and our very own Andy Turock, veteran, Marine, volunteer, etc. So also a Quilt of Valor recipient, but we'll get to that in a moment. I am so excited to have these two guests. I have had the privilege of attending a few Quilt of Valor programs where recipients receive their quilts, and I never leave there with a dry eye. It is an amazing program, and I'm so excited that you guys are here to tell our audience about it.
I'm very, very happy to be here, and I love to do presentations, awards, anywhere, anytime. Quilts of Valor was started basically by a lady named Catherine Roberts in 2003. Her son Nate was deployed to Iraq, and as anybody who has a family member who was deployed, she was depressed, she didn't sleep, and one night she went to sleep and she had a dream, and in the dream she came across Nate sitting on a stoop, very depressed. And as magical dreams are, one of the things that happened was she took and she wanted to comfort him. So, magical dreams, she has a blanket with her. She wraps him in that blanket, and then she feels better because she knows that she has comforted him. So, I woke up the next morning and said, okay, now I know what I'm going to do that's going to give me peace and quiet.
I think you're going to have to ask them for Kleenex again here. Okay, go ahead.
So what happened was she was a quilter, and she got together with her ladies and happened to be living in Maryland. So they went to Walter Reed with about a half a dozen quilts and said, to the chaplain, could you give these out? And he said, you know, I have a lot of people here. She said, don't worry, mother's intuition, mother's intuition. Yep. So what happened was he called her the next day and said how many and how fast, and that's what started the groups. We now have, these are figures that I was just recently on a conference call, and they had told us that we now, what started in 2003 now has risen to over, as of the ones that I presented this following weekend, and the numbers I got off was 345,672 quilts.
Oh my God. Wow.
So that's really, really an accomplishment, and it's great to make sure that all the vets that we can come to, that we can see, that we can associate with, get a feeling of comfort from those quilts. We have over 6,000 or somewhere in the vicinity of 6,000 groups across the United States, Canada, Australia, and England.
Wow.
And we also have, the last numbers that I had was actually 10,400 and something registered people, or women or men, members that actually work on the quilts, get together on Sunday afternoon, Monday nights, you know, little sewing parties. We also have many members who will do things at home. They don't necessarily are free to be able to come to the meetings to be able to sew. So what they'll do is they'll ask for kits, which we will give them a small kit that makes a block or a quilt top. They will take it home, sew at their convenience, and then bring it back. And then we put it together with a warm layer of batting and backing, and give it to somebody who has a long arm quilting machine, because we could never quilt them all by hand. It's impossible. So then it comes back to us, and we always get, well, we do word of mouth nominations, but anybody can nominate by just going on the website. And what they do is they just go on the website. There is a drop-down box. It tells you what you need to give for information. Any veteran who has been touched by war, which is our mission, is eligible for a quilt. Obviously has to have a honorable discharge, but No special war, no special job, no special place to have been served. It's just the fact that you have been touched by war. You're a veteran. You served this country. You deserve something back from us. That's basically the way it runs. I enjoy doing the presentations. I'm not the only one who does them. In Massachusetts, we have approximately, probably in the vicinity of 6 or 7 registered groups, but we have many groups of women in guilds or in churches who get together, and they will sew the stuff, you know, the blocks together, or just the blocks, and then give it back to us. And then in the groups that we have, we will then go ahead and make sure that we give it, we put the finishing touches on it to make it a beautiful piece.
So you said that there are many here in Massachusetts are working on it, but I know you're Andy's favorite, and there's a history here of how this program came to Westboro. Andy, can you tell us a little bit about that?
One afternoon, I received a phone call from somebody I had no idea who they were. And she said, "Is this Andy Turok?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "My father is having his 100th birthday next week, and we're having a party for him. And we would like you to attend." I had no idea what they were talking about. But when she told me where it was, in my favorite restaurant in Worcester, I went. And here's a man, 100 years old, World War II veteran, bombardier, flew 50 missions, which was unheard of, because after 25, they sent you home if you survived. And he opted for another 25. So I go in and I look around. I didn't see anybody that looked like they were 100 years old. So they pointed out this guy. We talked. I have a few pictures that somebody took. And later on in the day, here comes this woman. I had no idea who she was. And it was Teresa. And she presents the quilt to him. And I just said, wow, we have a lot of veterans. That would be wonderful if we could do it. Yeah. So I talked to her, and we started. And I think we've done about, 40, 45 here?
Oh, I think we're closer to 100.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He told me when he spoke with
And
me.
here, meaning here in Westboro.
Yes.
Yes.
When he spoke with me, he said to me, you know, we have 400 veterans, and I want to make sure I cover all of them. And I said, we'll do the best we can. Yeah. But from time to time, you know, sometimes we'll do a group, sometimes we'll do 1 or 2 individual. Sure. Awards don't have to be done in an event setting. They can be done
People
private.
you've gone to people's homes, right?
Oh yeah,
that's very common. So
I've gone to some strange places to deliver also. You know, I've done them in a garage, in a swimming pool, in a bar. But we try not to do it as a surprise because we don't know what the vet feels about his or her experience. Sure. But we want them to be comforted. It's a great experience when the family is able to participate because they feel a good comfort for him or her also. Sure. Again, it's just making sure that we say thank you, that we recognize you, that we remember and welcome home.
Yeah, go ahead, Andy.
They're all special. They're all very touching. Before you said something about getting a tissue. Yeah. It's not easy not to cry. No, but one that stands out in my mind, this gentleman, Mr. Goldstein, here in Westboro, 100 years old. We had it at a relative's house. So who's there for this presentation? He's there naturally, 100 years old. His daughter, his granddaughter, and his great-granddaughter were all there. And that was really something. That was, as a matter of fact, Paul Horrigan he presented it with me. Yeah. And it was just amazing.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about the impact that you've seen. Teresa, you've presented thousands probably
I
at
had,
this point.
well, I've done quite a few. The impact is, you know, you never know what you're going to find when you walk into somebody's home or when you walk into an event. Sometimes you have an event at like an American Legion or an Elks Hall or the Senior Center, and what happens is you get a lot of vets that have already got it or that are just there for support. Sure. So when you give it out, they are showing such support for that particular veteran. Yeah. It's rewarding. It's my way of making me feel good that, you know, I might be tired, I might have a whole bunch of things going on, but I'll do another one in a heartbeat. whenever. It's also rewarding for myself to be able to see the ladies and gentlemen who are working on a Sunday afternoon or a Thursday night, because a lot of times they're there to anonymously
Sure.
do their
Yep.
little part. They don't need a whole lot of recognition. This is their service project to give back. Many of them are on the older side, and many of them will take it and say, I remember this when my son was, or my husband, or whatever. It brings back good memories for them, makes them feel 100% better. I can't tell you, I've had some that have been a little challenging, like you said, with the tissues. We always tell the families, you can nominate by going online, as I said
Yep.
before.
Yep.
But at the same time, if you go online, you'll find me also, so you can connect with me. And what I always tell the families, if somebody's going to nominate, don't wait.
Yep.
You don't know how fragile they are. You don't know what life brings. Please don't wait. And in certain circumstances where you find someone who is very fragile, who goes into hospice or some kind of a strict care, please call me.
Yep.
I'll have a quilt, no
Yep.
problem. I'll go anywhere, anytime to do it. We also have situations where the family doesn't, or the vet is a little uncomfortable with all this
Yeah, kind
You-
of not pomp
yeah,
and circumstance. but the-
notoriety. They
yeah,
want
yeah.
it to be very private,
Sure.
or they can't take outsiders coming in. So what would happen is we will take it and say to them, okay, fine, you tell me all the information, I will put together a quilt kit for you. I will make sure that you get it, either mail it to you or deliver it. And you wait for the right appropriate moment. Sunday night that you're having sick chicken dinner or
Right,
spaghetti
right,
supper,
right.
and you feel like Grandpa really needs a lift,
Yeah.
here you go, you do it. Don't make a big deal out of the fact that there's nobody there, it's a party, it's just private. I've had wives who have come back to me and said, he or she didn't say anything, kept it, and the thing is that every day that they wrap it around themselves and they wake up or from a nap, or they get up and say, I feel better today because I know somebody cared, somebody remembered.
Sure.
Those are important.
So let's talk about the quilt itself, because you just made a couple references to that around,
Yep.
kind of comfort and wrapping and using.
Yep.
And so one of the things that struck me, and I've heard you present this many times, is that this is 100% cotton quilt.
Yes.
It's intended to not be, I mean, it could be framed.
Oh,
but
we
the-
always, I'm sorry to
No, no,
interrupt.
it's
but
okay.
We always encourage them, tell them. I tell each and every one
Right.
of them, I do not want you to put this in a frame or put it in a box or the cedar chest or the closet. It is made to be used. 100% cotton. Eating,
You can spill on it, you can wash it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's 100% cotton. It's made with an intent for be able to thrown in the washing machine, put into the dryer, and when it comes out, it's scrunchier and it reminds you of the one that Grandma made for you. So you always know that you can use it.
Sure.
We encourage them all to use it. There are many who will do that.
Yep.
Many of them will leave it on the recliner, and when they're watching their football game and, having a cup of coffee, or, if they're taking a snooze in the afternoon,
Sure.
it makes them feel comfortable.
Sure.
They know somebody cared.
Yeah.
And we also tell them you can share it. They can have the cat or the dog, or,
Yep.
the kids can jump around
Yep.
on it so that they can be comfortable with their mom and dad.
Right, right.
That's usable.
Using it and enjoying it. So speaking of which, you have a beautiful quilt here.
Yep.
It's a very personal quilt. It's actually Andy's.
Yes, it is.
And I'd love to, let's smooth these out of the way here a little bit. I don't want to be the one to spill something on it.
You were there when she surprised me.
Yes, so this was a surprise.
Oh, I was ready to
Well,
leave.
Andy has done so many quilts with me,
yeah.
so many presentations.
So, you know what? Let's talk about the back first. here.
Okay.
So, and we'll
The back always ends up with a label.
Yep.
It's down here. Yep. Okay.
Okay.
It says, awarded to Andrew Turok, December 9th, 2021. It was pieced by a lady named Meredith Momboquette, quilted by a lady named Ann Petrus, and also done the binding by Meredith Momboquette. There are many people who will just do bindings for us. There are many people who just do quilting. They love to do it. Now, one of the ways that we also recognize the quilts is we have little other labels, quilt labels that we have. in order to raise money occasionally, when we do a informational booth, or what you call a show and tell,
Sure.
we we sew up these little labels, and we ask people to stop by. We tell them about Quilts of Valor, and then we say, could you write a little message on the quilt? And the message will usually say, thank you for your service, welcome home, or something personal. Doesn't have to be signed. And what we do is we incorporate them to put them on the back of the quilt, so the vet always knows that there is a special person that saw this and looked at it and is giving you a thank you.
And that thank you. So this one says, our love and prayers and gratitude for all you've done for all of us. And then there are a couple others certainly on here as well. So this one is, let's see if we can kind of gracefully turn this over.
This way.
Oh, this way. Okay. This is just spectacular. So you've called this, every quilt is different.
Yes.
So that's the other thing.
This one happens to be made with panels.
Panels.
Some
okay.
of the quilts
Not being
just,
a quilter, I didn't know what that meant, but now I do.
These are the panels.
Yep. Look at
Some of
this.
the quilts are made with basically a design block, and then you put X amount of blocks in there to make another design on it. No two quilts are alike. They may look like they're similar, but they're never the same.
No.
God always leaves a mistake in there for you.
I love it. I love it. So so we have, look at this. And Andy, is there a connection here, dog?
There's a connection, but I don't think Teresa knew the connection.
Right,
It
so.
looks like one of my daughter's dogs.
Yeah.
Gone
Well,
there.
I just thought, he did so many, he's done so many. He's done presentations for me. He's gone to houses and homes and events and done the presentations for me, so that I don't have as much legwork, or sometimes I'm just not available to be in two places at the same time.
Sure. And we have some other pictures we'll show here as we're talking, as well as we'll post the information about the Quilts of Valor program and how folks can sign up. But for folks like myself, I'm not a quilter. You wouldn't probably want me on that team if you want the quilt to stay together. But are there other ways folks can volunteer?
Yes, basically what happens is we take it and we tell them, just come and see what we're doing.
Okay.
We have people who just cut material into different
Oh, I could do that.
for us. We have people who, of course, when you're making a block, you have to iron the material. You have to put things in certain order. I have a lady who just comes in to iron. That's all she does for the 2 hours of the meeting. She irons that. We have others who do prep work. They'll come on a different days to make prep work for the kits that'll go on. Okay. We have people who will go, like for instance, elderly complexes or other groups. And as I said before, one of the things they do is they'll take it and ask for kits. It's a little kit that makes a 9-patch.
Okay.
Simple, straight stitching.
Oh boy, she said simple. Now I'm
Simple,
offended.
right?
It's really not complicated, and what happens is it's got 9 pieces of material. You put them together in a special little design.
Yep.
You sew them, and then you give them back to us. Sometimes we mail them to people because they don't want to travel.
Sure.
Other times I'll pick them up. I'll bring them back and forth. I have a complex in an elder, over 55 elderly complex
whatever.
in Charlton, and the ladies don't come out because they want to keep their sewing machines at home. They want to sew at home. They want to sew in the morning at 5 or 11 at night.
Right.
So they'll say to me, can you drop off a batch? I'll drop off a batch, and they'll call me and I'll pick them back up again.
Sure.
It's one way for them to be able to do something tangible with their hands.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, like I say, just support your vets. It's always important. If you know of a vet, don't hesitate to nominate them. They don't have to, we can't impress upon them how important it is for us to give them the quilt, but they don't have to accept it if they don't want it.
Okay.
It's not like it's mandatory.
Sure, of course.
It's a gratitude, it's a gift, and it's a gift of comfort.
Sure. So our show reaches far and wide. I can't statistically say that, but I know it reaches pretty far, at least to Florida. So we have some viewers down there. So if there are folks who, let's say someone's watching now and their loved one lives, in Ohio. Do they contact you to get the ball started, or do they call Ohio?
Go online.
Okay.
Because what will happen is all the coordinators are listed online on the Quilts of Valor Foundation website.
Yes.
And what happens is you would then say request a quilt. And whatever you put into that information that is then presented
Okay.
will go to Ohio or Florida or
Okay, okay,
California.
Okay, great.
We've had people who, I have had people from other states who have said, my brother lives in Massachusetts, I'm going to make the quilt if I send it to you, can you do the presentation?
wow.
We will do that.
Wow,
You know,
wow.
there is, it's not like you have to have a special person to do it. Whatever they want. We are try and be as flexible as possible
Yeah, I know.
and make them comfortable. That's the whole thing.
Yeah. And the presentation is not only this quilt, but it is enclosed in a pillowcase, and the history of that pillowcase is very interesting
Yes.
as well.
When I was at a conference and Catherine was telling me that at first what they used to do was they used to have to send them, Catherine Roberts, the foundation, they used to send them overseas and you couldn't get them over here. They had to be given overseas. And what happens is they had to be put in a special kind of case or something to be identified. And so they made what they called a presentation case. To you and me, it's a pillowcase today.
Right.
And my understanding is that I've been told that they used to have some of them stored in the helicopters. So when they picked up a military personnel in the field, they would wrap them in the quilt and that would follow them all the way like to Germany or wherever and then home. And the point is that when they were picked up in the helicopters, there was no doors in the helicopters, so you've got papers going everywhere.
Sure.
My understanding is they finally got smart and started putting them into the presentation cases
Yep.
so that everything stayed together.
Yeah.
I've been told by a couple of fellas who said, I got my quilt when I was originally picked up in the field, and if it hadn't been for the C-130 coming home, I would have froze because it was cold. I mean, everybody's got their own
Sure.
story,
Of
but
course.
it follows them all
Sure.
the way, and they just understand what it means to them, where they got it, and what it means today. So
Yeah.
the other thing we give them when we do that is a certificate. And it'll say Quilts of Honor, Quilts of Valor. It'll tell the veteran's name, the branch of service, the date, and the fact that this is a Quilt of Valor, well, this one happens to be an honorary 300,000 Quilt of Valor award. The Quilts of Valor Foundation wishes to recognize you for your service to our nation. We consider it a privilege to do so. Though we may never know the extent of your sacrifice to protect and defend the United States of America, we award you this Quilt of Valor as an expression of gratitude from a grateful nation. And it's signed by, right now, the current Quilts of Valor Foundation Executive Director, Lori Thompson, and myself, the state coordinator. But each group will
Yep.
be able to give this out. Any group who is registered, when they do their own presentations, because I don't do them all, they will give out a pillowcase, what we call a pillowcase,
Yep.
but they will give out a certificate also. During a presentation, we generally talk about, we read a poem, very
Yep.
prolific to the veteran, and we also tell what touched by war means, because we can never, we never understand that. It could mean one thing, or it could be very deep feelings from another
Sure,
one.
sure.
And we don't necessarily ask the vets to share that unless they want to, so.
Yep. And sometimes they do have been at presentations, and sometimes they don't.
Yes.
And it's a thank you. So, in just the few minutes we have left here, Andy, I want to thank you for bringing this, connecting with Teresa, for attending that birthday party, for continuing to identify veterans in our community here in Westboro for Quilts of Valor. It's an amazing program.
It is.
And I'm so glad you could be our guest here, my guest here today, and thank you for your service and for all that you do for Westboro.
It's my pleasure. It's the Veterans Advisory Board most of us feel this is the most important thing we do,
Yeah.
was the quilts.
Good, thank you very much. It is an important thing. People think it's just so minor, but when
Oh,
the
no.
vet uses it every day, he
Yeah.
knows it's not, he or
Yeah,
she knows
yeah.
it's not minor.
Yeah.
The first time we did it at the senior center, we presented 5 quilts. 3 of the 5 men all cried.
Yeah.
They were sitting there crying. Not a tear, they were crying.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
Yes,
not,
it gave
that's
them
not the
some-
objective, but it certainly has that impact, right?
Absolutely.
Right, yeah,
Without a doubt. It's the only thing they probably had. They were all over 90.
yeah, yeah. We'll edit that part out. No. Teresa and Andy, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the 01581 Let's Talk. Join us next time for another great show. Thank you.